Hi, I'm Bybreen and welcome back to another episode of Soul Stirring Astrology, where I give you my textured take on the world of astrology. Welcome back to my Saturn series. I'm now at Saturn in Libra. So Saturn is actually exalted in Libra. And when we're looking at Saturn in Libra, we're looking at the authority and truth versus love, beauty, justice, harmony. That's represented by Libra, and Libra is ruled by Venus. So when we're looking at Saturn in Libra, what we're seeing is this schism. It's showing the separation between the inner parts of you that are represented by Venus and Mars. We're looking at love, which is about how you bring, the feminine energy and the masculine energy together. In the chart, the archetypes are Venus and Mars. It's otherwise known as the Animus, which relates to the male element and energy within us, and the Anima, which represents the female energy within us. And then obviously masculine and feminine. So, both of us, men and women, have this blend of both the masculine and the feminine. And what we're seeking to do is to find ways to harmonize this masculine and feminine energy. So if we think about an external representation of Saturn in Libra, think of China, because the genetic chart of China is Libra, and it's represented by the Great Wall of China, which is about at least 4,000 odd kilometers. I've been to the Great Wall of China, obviously didn't walk the whole 4,000 kilometers, but it's this structure that literally runs the length and the breadth of the country. So it's this edifice that separates parts of China. It's this physical thing, this physical structure. When we've got Saturn in Libra, there is this separation between the anima and the animus that we can now begin to harmonize. Saturn in Libra is like the aperture through which you can begin to navigate and to explore. Invariably what you will find is that there is a schism, there's a rift, there's a conflict between the anima and the animus, which means that there's this sort of gnawing sense of frustration that's building up within you with somebody who has Saturn in Libra. And what happens, because we're in the love energy, when we're seeking our partners, because Libra represents the 7th house, which is about your spouse or your, long-term committed relationship. So when you're seeking relationships, if you haven't harmonized this schism, that means that there's a war still going on, and the person who you choose may be a representation of that internal opponent. And so you might choose somebody based on the schism, or you might choose somebody because you haven't reconciled what the schism is, and therefore you're seeking somebody who represents Saturn, somebody who's maybe stayed or secure or provides financial safety, somebody who is solid, you see is solid, and isn't going to leave you. But in that, what did you trade off? You might find that this person may be all of these things, but you might be a bit bored and a bit frustrated. And therefore the problems that arise, you're then externalizing and pointing the finger to your partner, when actually it could be because you haven't started to reconcile this schism that's going on. Be honest with yourself. What was it about this person that appealed to you? There's this fantastic sketch by the comedian Chris Rock, and he said, in relationships we should be coming and going. That means we should be having lots of sex and having a great time, and I couldn't agree more. It's about how do we harmonize our lives with having great sex, intimacy, and exploring and enjoying life. Now, what can happen when you've got Saturn in Libra is this person who showed up, you knew who they were because they gave you signs about who they were. Same thing that Chris Rock talks about. He said you knew the person that you married. You knew that, for example, she couldn't cook and he wasn't very good with DIY in the house. But you knew that right at the beginning. And what happens, or what can happen, is that we can choose people on the basis of the romantic notion of love and marriage and intimacy, and therefore we are overlooking or avoiding or pretending we don't see what it is that the person is actually presenting to us. And then we get into a relationship with them, and then we feel as if they're burdening us in some way. That's because, for example, you haven't started to work on yourself and you're not really exploring who the other person is, and so therefore they just feel a bit stayed. Or it could be you're going along the line and you're sort of waiting hesitantly to see, well, what is it that this person, my partner, is going to give? I'm going to give on the basis of what he or she gives first, and then I will give. And so Saturn in Libra is very much about exactitude. He or she has done this for me, so therefore I'm going to do this in return. Which doesn't set up your relationship to bring about intimacy. You know, you could have chosen that person because actually somebody who's not requiring that much from you means that you don't have to deal with your fear of intimacy, your fear of being vulnerable, your fear of being. So it sets up the relationship very nicely. And then when it all goes wrong, you're pointing externally instead of turning the finger back onto yourself. So Saturn in Libra is guiding you, requiring you, demanding of you that you start the journey of your inner marriage. How do you marry your Venus and your Mars? How do you marry your Anima and your Animas? How do you marry your masculine and your feminine? You know, how do you marry? With regards to what Meghan Markle was talking about, you know, life, she said something like, you know, you shouldn't just be surviving in life. Life isn't just about surviving. Where in your relationship do you feel as if you're surviving your relationship? Where could you be thriving in your relationship? What lessons do you think you could learn when you marry your inner Venus and your inner Mars? This is what Saturn in Libra is calling you towards. Taking off the mask so that you can breathe life into your inner marriage, garner the wonderful lessons from your inner marriage, and then take them out into your external marriage. And it's a call for the time for you to be honest with what are your needs. Who are you really behind the mask? Because Saturn wants the truth. And what it also does, it really actively encourages you to drop the little girl syndrome and the little boy syndrome that shows up in your relationship. You know, you're playing the little girl and you're playing the little boy. Where actually with Saturn in Libra, it's calling for you to be that mature, responsible, open, loving person in your relationship that has an understanding of how to satisfy their own needs, but also explore them, and then bring that to your relationship, and then to hear what it is that your partner actually needs and requires and wants from you. And then it gives you both the opportunity to blossom into this wonderful ideal, because you've gone through the reality, and now that you know the reality, it's a way for you to transform it so that the reality can equally match the ideal, because truth has been brought to your relationship. So that's it, beautiful people. Saturn in Libra is calling for you to drop the mask. Put away that silly little girl and that silly little boy that is creeping around and hoping and intimating that somebody, your partner, your husband, your wife, is going to meet your needs. It's about the vocalization of it. It's about how accessible are you? That's a good question for you to ask. Truly, truthfully, how accessible are you in your intimate relationship? And on that, beautiful people, if you've got any questions and comments, put them in the comment box below. You know, I always love to jam with you. You know, if you've got Saturn in Libra, how do you manifest it in your life? If you know somebody's got Saturn in Libra, or if your partner has Saturn in Libra, how does it show up in your relationship? So feel free to share this episode with anybody in your network. You can like and subscribe to my channel. If you would like a personal consultation with me, drop me an email at bybreensamuels@googlemail.com, and I will see you again on the next episode, which will be Saturn in Aquarius. So stay well, and I will speak to you soon. Bye.